Welcome back to Foxsports News, a long lunch. Well, it's pretty rare that you manage to get the big movers and shakers of Australian sport all in the one room. But that's precisely what Tattersalls Club in Sydney managed to do each year.
Yep, the AFL, the NRL, the ARU, FFA and Cricket Australia are all represented, the big five. It's the who's who of Australian sport. It's the CEO Sports Lunch, and we can now join host Andrew Coorey, who's standing by live at the Tattersalls Club in Sydney.
Thank you, David and Luke, and thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for attending this CEO lunch at Tattersalls Club. We're going to have the guests up very shortly, the blokes who run the most important sports in our country. But just quickly, a couple of people have been asking me questions around the place. There are some familiar faces in the room and some new faces in the room. The two questions I'm being asked are, what is this place and how did you get this job? This place was a pub over 150 years ago, and the guys who drank at the pub one day said, we should just buy the joint and keep out the people we don't like. And they did. It's the great Australian dream, folks, buying your own pub and keeping out strangers, and that's how Tattersalls Club was formed 150 years ago this year. And as to the question, how did I get this job? I'm on the committee of the club and I gave it to myself. And seemed to work. Folks, it is time to bring up our guests today. We're very pleased to have them here. Could I call to the stage, and feel free to salute them as they approach, James Sutherland, who runs Cricket Australia. Can I call John O'Neill, the main man at Australian Rugby? David Gallop from the National Rugby League. Gil McLaughlin from the AFL. And Ben Buckley from Football Federation Australia. Now, I hope you're all in the right spots there, gentlemen. Obviously, the biggest story, if not in sport, perhaps in Australia this week, has been the budget. And I'm going to come to ask you about funding and that sort of stuff. But before we get into business and funding and broadcast and that sort of stuff, I thought we should establish these gentlemen as sports people, not just as sports administrators. So I'm going to ask each of you, starting from this end, I suppose, James, when you were a young lad of 12 or 15, what was your sporting ambition as a kid and how close did you get to achieving it?
A couple of things probably, Andrew. One was to see Geelong win an AFL premiership, and the other one was to play cricket for Australia. The dream of Geelong winning a premiership came after a 30-year wait last year, and I'm still waiting for the other one.
Very patient man. John, as a youngster, what was your sporting ambition and how close did you get?
Pretty modest. Aspired to get into the Joey's first 15. Had 2 years in the seconds. I'm still waiting.
David, tell us about your youthful sporting ambitions.
Yeah, look, I guess we all grew up in this country wanting to be Dennis Lilly or Bobby Fulton or those kind of guys, and by the time you get to 12 or 15, you're probably starting to realise it's not going to happen, but your passion for the sport's by then entrenched, and lucky enough to be working in sport today.
Gillen, tell us about your youthful aspirations in the world of sport.
Yeah, obviously, like these guys, loved playing sport and wanted to be as good as I could at, I guess I played a number of sports. The closest I got was about 7 minutes at Carlton, and I enjoyed all 7 minutes, but that was about it.
That's 7 more than most of us in this room. Ben, tell us about your aspiration versus reality as a sportsman.
Well, I had the good fortune and luck of actually seeing Gill's 7 minutes, so, and I can see why they were short.
Feel free to snob amongst yourselves, by the way.
But I'm pretty much the same. I grew up a Carlton fan of all things and wanted to play alongside Alex Jesaulenko, but he was a little bit older than me, so I missed that opportunity.
I'm sure you get to talk to him now. Now, I mentioned the budget, and reading around the place, before the new government came in, or while they were campaigning, they promised $32 million for football or soccer and all sorts of other stuff, and they quickly came into government and took away some of the things they'd promised rugby and rugby league. Ben, have they delivered on that early promise before the election to give you all sorts of baubles and gold and trinkets?
Well, pleasingly, yes, and I went down to Canberra for budget night just to make sure. But look, we were delighted that the federal government came in and supported football. It has been a hard road for the game to make the sort of investments to catch up with some of the other sports who have been, I guess, at the forefront of professionalism for many, many years and have had bigger budgets to work with. So to receive that money and to be able to invest it into, women's football, into facility development, into supporting the 9 national teams that we have, we're delighted. And I'm sure that others look at it and wonder what we're going to do with it. But I can assure everyone that it's going to be put to good use.
Now, the 2 rugby codes had the misfortune of having the Howard government promise them $25 million each, and if it didn't have Howard's name on it, perhaps you might have got the money. Can you tell us I'll start with John O'Neill, the promise was for both codes, as I recall, centres of excellence are going to be funded by the federal government, and of course, as I understand it, the new government's kiboshed that. Can you tell us what the story is there? Did you try and change their minds?
Yes, it came as a bit of a shock. 30th of June last year, the then Prime Minister John Howard announced up at Ballymore a grant of $25 million to build a national academy at Ballymore, a fantastic asset that Queensland Rugby owns, 30 acres, and the Queensland Government also was supportive, and along came the federal government with $25 million. It looked like a wonderful outcome, only to find that post the election that it was regarded not as a firm commitment, and it was axed as part of the cost-cutting exercises. Look, how much of it was politics versus a genuine cost-cutting exercise, but who can be sure? The fact is we do have a new government in place and we have to deal with them. It's not sensible to get offside with new governments, but we're keen to resurrect that funding for Ballymore because the arguments remain absolutely compelling. And when you do look at the funding that other sports have received over the last 4 years, particularly for facilities around the country, rugby union has received nothing in the last 11 years. So it'd be good if rugby union, world champions in 91 and 99, could get some investment dollars for an academy at Ballymore.
Very straight faces alongside you. David, you had a similar sort of promise from the previous government for some sort of centre of excellence.
Yeah, ours was a $10 million funding that was going to go towards a Hall of Fame, appropriate for our game given that we're in our 100th year. We were, like John's sport, bitterly disappointed. We mentioned it to anyone remotely connected to the government within about 20 seconds of meeting them. Still, we'd like to see the decision reversed, of course. Impact of the budget, I guess, for all of us is hopefully going to see people with more discretionary money, and they'll be spending their money on buying tickets to football games.
Is the Hall of Fame going to go ahead?
It's not at this stage, but it certainly would have if we'd got the $10 million.
Very good. Gillen, you sat there very straight face while these guys complained about not having any money, and there are people who suggest that the AFL is really doing the best in terms of getting money to stadiums and that sort of stuff. Do you guys feel that you are making a very good go of getting government money? Or do you deny that you're very good at it, I suppose, is another way of saying it?
No, what I'd say is that we have worked hard at partnering with government, both federal and state, to deliver first-class facilities for our supporters. And what we've done for a number of times is to go to government and say we're prepared to put our own money in and to partner with, in fact, local, state and federal government to deliver facilities that benefit the whole community. And I guess our approach has been to partner and invest our own money, and we're really pleased and proud with the facilities we have right throughout the code, both elite level, club level and local level.
There's lots of different ways money comes into sport, and if I looked across some of the sponsors of the codes we've got here today, you've got the Jim Beam Cup sponsoring the second tier of rugby league, the Bundaberg Rugby Series, the VB Series in cricket, the Carlton Matchday at AFL. I think the most dangerous thing sponsoring soccer is Kentucky Fried Chicken, but the other ones are all getting reasonably serious amounts of money from alcohol sponsors, and the current government seems very anti-alcohol all of a sudden. Are you guys worried, and I'll start with James, are you guys worried, because you had to move from Benson Hedges years ago from cigarette sponsorship to without it,